Alright, I think it's recording now. So recently there's been a lot of people that started playing Minecraft again. For example, there's this guy called Hamza. He used to be very big in the self-improvement niche. And I also used to watch his content. A few weeks ago I rediscovered his channel and apparently he's still making self-improvement content. But he's playing Minecraft in the background now. And I was thinking, why can't I just do the same thing? Why can't I play Minecraft as I rant about topics that I'm passionate about? And one of those topics is church history, specifically Baptist history. And I think, oh, items, this is great. I think it's very important for Baptists to know the history nowadays. Because if you're disconnected with church history, you're gonna believe a lot of weird stuff. And I'm gonna talk about some examples in a moment. But there's this belief in the Protestant movement called Sola Scriptura. And it's the belief that the Bible is the only infallible authority. And naturally, Baptists believe in this as well, because Baptists are also Protestants. The problem is that a lot of Baptists don't actually understand what Sola Scriptura is. A lot of Baptists reject tradition, church history, commentaries. They just read the Bible and think that they would understand everything just reading the Bible. This isn't the case. You can't. You're not a scholar. There are people that are studying the Bible in universities that you need the historical context to understand everything. You're not gonna understand everything just reading the Bible. This is not the case. You're gonna understand everything just reading the Bible that is necessary for salvation, maybe. Sure, but you can't understand everything. You will have to use commentaries and to rely on other people and on church history. And I can think of two big examples of how Baptists have removed themselves from church history and start to believe something that is very harmful. One of those examples being dispensationalism. If you don't know what dispensationalism is basically the view that Israel and the church are two distinct entities in the end times. So God has plans for the church and plans for the Israel separately. And another big part of dispensationalism is the idea of the rapture, that Christians will be taken up to heaven before the rapture, before the Great Tribulation. The problem with this view is that it did not exist before the 1800s. Not a single Christian believed in this. It was invented by a guy called Darby, and I think he had like a dream or something. I think he had a dream about the rapture, or it was a girl that had a dream about the rapture, but it didn't even originate from scripture. And all of the scriptural proof text that they use to defend the rapture, it's all taken out of context. It's really bad. It's extremely bad. Yeah, so not a single Christian believed in this before the 1800s. And it's also very it's... What are you called again? I don't know what they do again. I know they used to be on the mob vote. I'm gonna have to make one later. Right, what was I saying again? There's a lot of research on dispensationalism, and I mean premillennialism in general, but dispensationalism is specific, especially, that it causes a lot of damage. There's a lot of sociological research on this. I can talk about this in the future, I can make a future video on this. It's very harmful, both to the Christian movement as well as just society in general. But yeah, dispensationalism, completely ahistorical, also abiblical. It's nonsense. Baptists should not believe in this. And the early Baptists didn't believe in this either, because, as already said, dispensationalism didn't exist back then. Oh, it's a creeper. Another harmful belief that many Baptists nowadays have is Christian nationalism. And you might wonder, okay, what is the problem with Baptists holding to Christian nationalism? The early Baptist movement was explicitly anti-Christian nationalist. That was their entire shtick. They were all about anti-Christian nationalism. Thomas Helvus, when he went back to England and founded the first congregation on English soil, he wrote a book called A Short Declaration of the Mystery of Iniquity. And he was criticizing the King of England for oppressing religious minorities, including Catholics, Muslims, Jews, and Baptists naturally. I didn't know you could stack them. I could have thought maybe it's a mod that does this, but I thought you can stack those. Interesting. I will have to find out if this is just a mod or if this isn't actually a vanilla change. Right, so Thomas Helvus was criticizing the King of England for oppressing religious minorities, and he sent a copy of his book to the king, criticizing him. Obviously, he was sent to prison and he ended up dying there for his faith, but this was so important to the early Baptists that they were actually willing to die for this doctrine. And the entire Baptist movement everything was based on religious liberty. For example, the reason why Baptists don't baptize infants is because they believe it has to be a personal decision. You can't be forced into the faith, not by the government, but also not by your parents. Your parents can't baptize you as an infant. This is not possible. You have to make the personal decision to join the church. So once again, this is completely contrary to everything that the early Baptists stood for. You can't be a Christian nationalist and a Baptist. And I mean, I guess it's gonna depend on what you mean by Christian nationalism, because nowadays this term is being used in a lot of senses. Some people would just call any Christian that engages with politics and believes in Christian morality is a Christian nationalist. So that's obviously ridiculous. This is not Christian nationalism. But when we are actually talking about Christian nationalism, yeah, you can't be a Christian nationalist and a Baptist. These two are not compatible. And this is why I think it's important that Baptists should learn more about history, about Baptist history and about church history in general. I actually think that Baptist beliefs can be defended historically using church history. I think you can defend the doctrine of believers' baptism using the Didache, for example. I don't think that the first generation of Christians practiced infant baptism, because the Didache does not mention infant baptism, even though it has a very detailed description of how Christians are to baptize people. Or a different doctrine, the doctrine of religious liberty. This comes straight from the early Christians. Tertullian says, "It is a fundamentally human right, a privilege of nature, that every man should worship according to his own convictions." This is a Christian doctrine. Christians have always believed this. It's a doctrine that was lost over time, as Christianity was spreading through the Roman Empire, and at some point the church and the state was being combined, was mixing, but the earliest Christians believed that religious liberty is necessary for Christianity, because if faith is being enforced, it's not actual faith. Real worship requires you to worship from your own free will. You have to want to worship. And if that's not the case, it's not pure worship. It's not actual worship. And this is why I think that Baptists do need church history, because we can actually make usage of this. We can defend our tradition, not only using the Bible, but also using church history. Mystical Red Petal. I installed the Botania mod, so I actually don't know anything about about most mods that I installed here. So we're gonna have to figure this stuff out as we go. Something is burning right there. I actually don't know how these mods work and what I'm supposed to be doing here. Interesting. Great. So regarding the waystones, if you've seen the waystone that I activated earlier, I believe these are used for teleportation. I'm not quite sure how they work, but I believe that you can somehow teleport you with them. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. Wait. If I make leather and put this in here. Nope, I can't do anything using this. Maybe I have to put clothes in here. Maybe like a leather tunic. I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing with that stuff. But anyways, right, the reason why all of these weird doctrines that are completely contrary to the Baptist faith, including like also stuff like the, what is it called again? Like these mega churches that promote giving all your money to the pastor. It's really ridiculous. All of the stuff wouldn't exist if Baptists knew more about their history. If they believed what the early Baptists believed, if they knew what the early Baptists believed. Because these are problems that didn't start with the Baptist movement. They started later. They developed over time. It's a corruption of the early Baptist movement. And I think if we all study more church history, if we talk about these things, we can go back to our heritage. to be. So, oh, it's a leather tunic. Wait, let me go back. If I already have a leather tunic, maybe I can use this. I think it was called a tanner? What is a tanner? What do you use a tanner for? I think that's where we came from. Right, let me take this off real quick. That's not what I was trying to do. So if I put you inside of... Okay, I have no idea what a tanning rack is used for. Can I put any items in here? I don't think I can. Maybe it's like for coloring stuff? Nope, it is not. Okay, no idea what this is. It doesn't matter. I'm probably never gonna use it.